Today we are going to put the entire concept of my YouTube channel to the test. You see, there are so many places on YouTube where you can watch somebody play a good game of Magic. But when I created this channel, I set out with the goal not just for me to get better at Magic, but to bring a community of improvers right along with me. That's why I spend so much time not just playing games, but actually walking you through the data and lessons that help you get better at Draft and Sealed. Today we're going to test whether that's actually paying off with a brand new type of video. I've selected a handful of people from our community. I call them the Splash Champs. These people are going to play one after another through the arenadirect. This is an event where if you get 6 or 7 wins before your second loss, you actually get a box of booster packs mailed to your house. Over the next week, we're going to have between 3 to 5 Splash Champs play for a box. And our goal as a community is to win at least one box over the next week. So to be clear, in this video, you're going to see someone from the community play. I'm going to be commentating the game. To be crystal clear, he cannot hear me and I cannot hear him. He has no assistance from me whatsoever. We're just going to be watching, learning, and rooting for him to take home the first box in the Splash Championships. Just a quick ground rule before we jump in. I'm super grateful to anyone who comments and lets me know what you think, especially since this is a brand new type of video. However, anytime we have a guest, the rule is there's no tolerance for disrespect of any kind towards our guest, okay? A simple question to ask yourself before you comment is this constructive criticism on a play, or am I talking about a player? If you're talking about the player, you are risking a ban from commenting on my channel again. These events are very, very, very punishing. If you have a 50-50 win rate, which is the average win rate, you are going to get 1 or 2 or 3 wins, depending on how things break down most of the time. So those 3 results, 1 wins to 3 wins, is pretty average. Anything above that is gravy. Most runs that we'll see are not going to win a box, and that just reflects the real experience of these events, okay? So with that said, let's see some magic. All right, so today's brave challenger is Darth Corpulus, who is just about to jump into the event and open his pool. What is he going to get? What is he going to get? Okay, Vision Quest it's kind of a nice one, a little bit tough in Sealed because you do have to have an artifact, like artifacts that make it work, and is pretty weak in Sealed. Astonishing Ant-Man, that's a 1/1 for 2. When you draw a card, you put a counter on it, and then you can remove counters to make that many insects. Very tough synergistic build around. Castle Doom, super grindy artifact build around. The thing about it is being slow is okay in Sealed, a lot more okay than in Draft. However, that is a really tough ask because it's so super synergistic and kind of low impact. We also had a Mole Man, Kingpin of Crime, and Shield Flying Car. So Mole Man, makes the little 1/1s and so forth. Rather an interesting one, I guess, because I guess it could facilitate a go wide strategy. And then Shield Flying Car, that might be the rare that I am like the most enthusiastic about. Okay, so what have we got here? I'm seeing a Night Nurse. I'm seeing double Take Up the Shield. Double Take Up the Shield is quite nice. That's a very, very strong trick. So we're looking at pretty good white, I would say. Actually, rather a lot of white 2-drops. You've got Agent of Atlas, Brave Brawler. Whoa, double Hero in Training. Hero in Training, it's not quite, it's probably the best card in Draft. Probably not quite, or the best common rather. Probably not quite the best common in Sealed. Wakandan Drone Flock, White Widow. Okay, I mean, white, as always in this format, is looking solid. Here's Hero in Training. Because I know the video quality, because I'm streaming this from someone else, is not exactly the most crisp ever. I'm gonna put up some cards here so that you can see cards that I'm talking about if there's like an important game moment. So I'm immediately liking white a lot with double Hero in Training plus Night Nurse plus double Take Up the Shield plus Brave Brawler plus Agent of Atlas. Colleen Wing could be strong, especially with the double Take Up the Shield. I think, you could have a lot of opportunities to activate that Colleen Wing when a spell targets a creature you control, put a +1/+1 counter on it, and scry one. Okay, now looking at blue. So Bold Biochemist, Falcon Wings Harness. I do quite like the Falcon Wings Harness in Sealed. That's the one that gives flying. And there's also double Atlantean Cavalry. I Am Iron Man could go rather nicely with the Colleen Wings. Here's Falcon Wings Harness, +1/+1, flying, and ward 1. Okay, looking at black. So a Whiplash Vengeful Engineer, it is just a 2/2 for 1. Always always a floor on how bad it is. Having said that, in sealed, it's probably less well supported than just a higher impact card. Probably better in draft, especially because it's so synergistic. Okay, double Baron Strucker. Yeah, that's also a very synergistic card, right? And it's understated. So the black is not looking super impressive to me. I think the blue also looked pretty awkward curve-wise, just having a whole ton of 3-drops and not that many 2-drops. Let's see. Okay, red, I mean, it's about as bad as red usually is in this format. You've got double Hulk Smash, which is definitely a nice one. But then what else do you have? I mean, oh, my bad. Hulk Smash, you know, there's some other stuff alongside Hulk Smash. Sorry, minor technical hiccup there. You can destroy a non-creature artifact, or you can target have target creature you control bite a creature. So that's pretty much the only card I saw worth anything in red. And now what are we looking at in green? So yeah, I'm not so big on the powerful broker. There is a double pet Avengers here. I've got Serpent Specialist. I'm not so high on Gorilla. I'm also not very high on kind of lower impact 2-drops. Let's see. Kind of the same thing about Hellcat. It's sort of a 2-for-1, but I think Hellcat is one of those things I said that we should really look out for, which is a kind of a faux 2-for-1, something that's not really a 2-for-1, but it sort of looks like it. That's the 2/2 when it dies, return to the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter, and it loses all abilities. Okay, double Pet Avengers is really nice though. And yeah, Titania, I don't mind. I mean, in a certain sense, it's overstated. Herbie's pretty good. It's kind of a 2-for-1. Villainous Hideout is a fantastic card in sealed. So if you can get some critical mass of villains, then that one could be worth it. You just do need to have the villains, right, in your deck for it to actually be good. I will say there's also I think that's the Abominable Hulk, something like this. Abominable. Let's see if I can pull it up quickly. That one, I think... No, it's not Abominable. What is it called? The Hulk, the red-green Hulk that's on the left there, I think is like pretty good in sealed. I do think that I was overrating it. Let's see. What else have we got? Yeah, I mean, the green actually does look pretty strong, right? To be honest, I think that the curve is nice. I mean, Knights of Wundagore, though, is definitely a trap. So... let's see. Darth Corpulus is thinking about maybe green-blue. I can see there's an Astonishing Ant-Man in there. It's not a villain, is it? It's a human scientist hero, so Villainous Hideout does not splash for it. I think I would lean away from playing these like very low impact, very synergistic green cards like Knights of Wundagore and Mr. Hyde. Powerful Broker to a certain extent as well. However, looking at this, like, look at super dense creatures, a great curve. I mean, I can very much see his thinking here. And, you know, it actually kind of makes a lot of sense to just go for a deck with a fantastic curve and just a huge number of creatures. It also does have Khazar, which is a really phenomenal card. Okay, I finally found it. The card that I was thinking of earlier is Abomination Terrifying Titan. This one was actually kind of underperforming in sealed for some reason. I actually don't know if it still is, but I was rather surprised to see that it is not quite as strong as I expected. 5/5 trample for 7 that immediately kills a creature sounds like a pretty strong card for sealed. You especially would want some ramp in there. So if you're going to go for that line. So some things that I would be looking at here. I mean, first thing is, how bad is the Azorius deck? It seems like he concluded the curve on blue and maybe the card strength on blue is just a little bit too weak. So Shield Flying Car is probably nice, but it's not like an absolute bomb rare. Falcon Swing Harness, I do think is quite strong for sealed. I also quite like the Bold Biochemist. That card is a proper 2-for-1. It is a little bit slow, but being slow is a whole lot more excusable in sealed than it is in draft. So this is a Bold Biochemist, and he does have one of those. I might be considering some kind of teamer. His fixing is okay. I mean, he's got a red-green and a green-black land, as well as Herbie is kind of fixing. And then also at the top there, 2 Esper tap lands, the black-white and the blue-black. Oh, there you go. I mentioned Herbie, and he immediately highlighted it and thought about the Herbie. But yeah, okay, he's signaling that he has a whole lot of 4-drops. To be clear, he cannot hear my audio, and I cannot hear his audio. Anything that he's saying, I cannot hear. So The 4-drops are definitely a little bit clogged. I completely agree. And we got one undercover scroll, the 1142 that taps to add 1 mana of any color. This card, which is your absolute classic ramp piece for the set, your 2 mana Birds of Paradise. Only having one of those, though, does not a ramp deck make. So it looks like we're thinking a lot about Selesnya, green-white. I might want to see... Okay, I don't think that the flying car is necessarily super worth splashing. This is the vehicle that when it enters, you exile a creature and bring it back at the end of the turn. If you have things with good enters effects, I'm talking Herbie. I don't think it works with Khazar because I think that makes a legendary token. I guess Wakandan Drone Flock, White Widow, Ant-Man's Army to some extent. Hero in Training gets you a card back if you flicker it. Yeah, so I might be looking to splash the Shield flying car if this is the build that we're going with. I also think it's worth mentioning some of the black removal, like Hour of Defeat, just having some unconditional removal in black. Oh, interesting. We're making big moves. We're considering Simic now, maybe to support the Ant-Man. So if we go in this direction, one thing that would be worth considering would be, can we splash red? So green-blue primary, splashing red. Obviously, I have a great love for Teamer, so it's no surprise that I would advocate that. But you could splash the Vision Quest and put in Herbie. Vision Quest plus Herbie is just absolutely nasty. So I think that splash would be basically a gimme if we're doing the green-blue deck. I haven't seen how much fixing we have into red, but I have to imagine you can get 3 pips, I think, one way or another. Okay, yeah, the Azorius is looking very awkward, isn't it? I mean, we saw in yesterday's data deep dive video that Azorius is played about 3 times as much as the next most played archetype, about 15 times as much as the least played archetype, Gruul, and yet it wins at a higher rate than any other archetype. So a huge amount of the time, you should just go Azorius. I think this is not a terrible Azorius deck, but I think it is missing a lot of what I would want to see. I probably would not go Azorius with this pool. This is one of the half of pools or so where you should not go Azorius. No, maybe you should not go Azorius with like 2/3 of pools or something like that. Having said that, let's see. I mean, there are just a lot of clunkers like Thirst for Knowledge, Atlantean Cavalry, not so big on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. White Widow is not so good. We have to play Shuri with not that many artifacts. Super Suit. You know, it's just a lot of clunkers. Card of True Believer is not where I want to be in Sealed, or Kid Loki for that matter. And you just don't have a lot of the interaction either. I'm not seeing a single web up. I'm not seeing a Helicarrier strike. Even, you know, we do have the Take Up the Shield, but that's a poor replacement for removal. There's no Spider-Woman. There's no Murdoch's Crusade. We're missing a lot of the white removal that makes this deck work. Oh, and also the blue removal. We don't have a single Trickster's Stratagem or a We Say Thee Nay. So I think we're really missing a lot of the commons that make Azorius a safe landing place. And so I would probably be steering away from Azorius with this pool personally. From what I've seen so far, I think the green-white deck looked the best to me. Yeah, I think I would probably lean towards the green-white deck. It looked like a nice mixture of just high-quality commons and stats. This is not a great pool. I will be very impressive if Darth Corpulus gets a really strong result with this one, because not only were the rares not particularly good, but also the common and uncommon card quality is not super strong. All right, we're cutting Azorius, going back to green. Yeah, I like that. That's where I would be landing as well. Yeah, skip the Knights of Wundagore. Excellent. I hate that card in Sealed personally. It really takes a draft deck that can enable the +1/+1 counter synergies. Here, I really think Training Regimen, the like Training Regimen, Powerful Broker, Mr. Hyde, +1/+1 counter idea is kind of cute. But I do not think it's where you want to be in Sealed. I would cut those +1/+1 counter cards, maybe cut a White Widow to make room for the terrifying Titan that we were talking about. This guy. The 6/5 Hulk also, I think, is not the worst card. The 3 red and a green for 6/5. All right, we're queuing up with Selesnya. Awesome. We have our deck. Just taking one more look. Yeah, okay. I mean, look, this is exactly the color pair that I thought would be the best. Absolutely. I might have taken a little bit of a closer look at fixing. For example, could we get that Hour of Defeat in there? Maybe we could put in Herbie to make that kind of thing a little bit easier. But hey, you know what? I really like where his head is at. That is a very high creature count, an excellent curve. playing a lot of high quality cards. I would cut some of the partial +1/+1 counter synergy thing. Cards like Powerful Broker, that 3/3 for 3 that taps to add a counter to something. You know, a whole lot of the time when I have that card out, I'm caught between mainly just wanting to attack with it rather than tapping it and doing the thing. So it kind of ends up being a 3/3 vanilla. This is a bit of an unlucky hand. What I also didn't see is, did we check for the number of villains that we had for the villainous hideout? But okay, oh, Mr. Hyde is a villain right there. So there you go. And I think Mr. Hyde's probably a lot better. I would probably be keeping this hand, but maybe his thinking is just that he is an aggro deck. Yeah, I think I like the keep here. You know, sometimes you might say, I'm an aggro deck, I really want to hit my 2 drops, so I'm going to mulligan until I find one. Oh, such a groan test whenever that happens. Whenever your opponent plays a turn 1 shield spy kit. But okay, now we're slapping down an undercover scroll on 2, so that is hardly something you can complain about. But dang, Winter Soldier, the Icy Assassin. So that card is a 2/2 for 1 black and 1 white Vigilance Menace. It gets +2/+0 for each equipment. And you can return it from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter on it, and then attach an equipment you control to it. So very hard to kill and just properly get rid of. And also they already played the equipment to slap onto the Winter Soldier. So that is very, very obnoxious to face down. We could play the card of True Believers here. Oh, I guess, is he thinking about a double block? Is that why he didn't play the card of True Believers? I guess he would be taking 5 damage. It does have menace, so he has to double block. I would probably not be blocking here, partly because we would have take up the shield. But okay, here what we can do is we can play Crowd of True Believers, organize a double block next turn, and then take up the shield. But wow, I mean, this is a bad beat. This is just not what you want to see when you queue into an arena direct. Nothing that Darth Corpulus really could have done differently so far in this game. Other than casting that Crowd of True Believers last turn, we would have a Crowd of True Believers down. So that's the one place where I would have maybe done something differently. But probably what I would be doing is play the Crowd of True Believers, hold up, take up the shield, get into a double block, and take up the shield, and just use your combat trick. I think, and it looks like that's the direction that we're heading in. I think that's just the way to make the best out of a bad situation. Basically make the opponent have another removal spell. Because look, the thing is, Mr. Hyde is not getting you out of this situation. Mr. Hyde is not going to win a race against the Winter Soldier, which also, by the way, can come back next turn. So I think this is a spot where, look, you can get blown out if they have a kill spell and for your take up the shield. But I mean, at a certain point, they've had so much already, you just have to make them have that one extra thing. Okay, so the opponent does not have a combat trick because it looks like their thinking is play hero in training, dig for Helicarrier Strike. I guess if they had Helicarrier Strike, maybe they would play it the same way to make us think that they don't have something, but you're getting into the land of like double bluffs. So I'm going to go with the opponent does not have anything. So I think we should get into a double block and play take up the shield. Let's see what he does. Darth Corpulus considering his options. Playing take up the shield before blockers, maybe to play around Helicarrier Strike. That's smart. I like that thinking. So the idea is if we throw hero in training plus Crowd of True Believers in front of the Winter Soldier and then play take up the shield, the Helicarrier Strike could kill whatever we target with take up the shield. Very, very clever play. Awesome job by Darth Corpulus. The Splash Army is showing its wisdom on this one. Oh, and another take up the shield. Okay, let's go. Now we have a real shot. So we get to play Mr. Hyde, save whatever gets into combat next turn. No way is the opponent going to play around a second take up the shield. And now we have a big chunky creature. All right, so that was a pretty sweet draw. We probably don't want to draw any more lands, but you know what? If Mr. Hyde survives, which it should, hopefully, because we have a take up the shield going on, then we can start conniving with the villainous hideout. All right, so let's get into combat. Sky to the top. Never like to see that. Ooh, are we going to no blocks? Now that is interesting. That is actually fascinating. Oh, no. Okay, we're just passing to blockers. Sorry. Wow, this is tense. No blocks? Seriously? I would... I would never not block here, but I'm not always right. So I'm really curious to see why he considered not blocking there. And then passing straight to damage. Interesting. So he's saving the he's really slow rolling this take up the shield in a cool way. I like this a lot because that hero in training was not important to us, right? We did not need the hero in training. What we need is Mr. Hyde. Mr. Hyde is going to start drawing cards, conniving, getting counters. So saving that take up the shield for Mr. Hyde, keeping Mr. Hyde out of combat, that makes a lot of sense to me. Okay, down comes Titania. Okay. And then a Widow's Bite. Okay, take up the shield, put a counter. So Indestructible would not save it, but because we can grow its power and toughness, it's going to be okay. Beautiful. Oh, you could take a counter off of it and draw. Oh yeah, you should do that. I definitely think. Okay, awesome. We made the right play. Oof. Oh, that's not what we wanted to see. So I like this. Basically, Surveil into draw card, into Connive. All right, you know what? That could actually kill the shield spy kit. I'm not sure if it's worth doing, but we have to be thinking about that now. So you could, and also what I really like about Gorilla is we can actually play it and connive with our villain. So I would keep this on top, connive and play it, right? Keep the green untapped though. That's very important here. Hold on, did we already play our land for the turn? Oh, the auto tapper fully betrayed us. That is tragic. Yeah, no, the green got tapped down. The green got tapped down, and we already had played our land for the turn. I think Darth Corpulus thought that he had not played his land for the turn. The way that he like made sure to discard the plains really makes me think that he thought he could then play the forest after that. Yeah, that's a tough one. But hey, you know what? We were going to take the 5 damage anyways. They didn't even put the shield spy kit on, which is really interesting to me. That Winter Soldier, let's pull it up here so you can do that as an instant. So we have to imagine that our opponent's plan is to bring back a 2/2 with a finality counter and put an equipment. So if we attack with Mr. Hyde, they could put the shield spy kit on Winter Soldier and block us. Okay, so I'm very glad that we didn't do that. Now we are facing down Titania. Probably just throwing away the land, keeping the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. That's good action. We could start organizing big blocks against Titania. The unfortunate thing that's going to happen here is they do get a 5/3. Having said that, it can, if they want to be untapping it and scrying, it has to attack alone. But wow, this was a nasty curve out, and big props to Darth Corpulus for holding his own against turn 1 shield spy kit, turn 2 Winter Soldier. That is a tough turn 1 and turn 2. So the opponent did not go for the scry. Attacks with both. So, I mean, there's not much you can do here, right? I think you probably double block. I think you probably double block Titania personally. If the opponent has anything, you lose. But the thing is, if they have nothing, you lose. If we do no blocks, that means we cannot take a single hit from their menace creature again, which means we're now dead to any single removal spell, very likely, unless we draw a land next turn. Wow, into Ronin. Oh, the opponent had such a nice equipments pool. So Ronin can tap sacrificing equipment to give something -4/-4. There it is, Ronin Shadow Stalker. Okay, so we're going to get rid of the equipment so that Ronin cannot sack and give Mr. Hyde -4. I think that makes sense. Not really finding a card here is pretty brutal. perhaps we should be on 16 lands. But one thing is, a lot of our lands are colorless lands that offer utility. So I'm not even sure that it should be 16. Okay, so I see. This was an interesting plan, and very well thought through by Darth Corpulus. Not taking the damage gave us -3 power to the Winter Soldier. Or not blocking, rather, taking the damage. Because that meant that there was no equipment left to slap onto the Winter Soldier. So now we actually can take a hit from the Menace creature, and we're not dead to any generic removal spell. All right, no attacks, clearly. But, okay, Murdoch's Crusade, and that's gonna be a GG. Oh, tough beat. So I wonder if we're gonna take a look at the deck list now. Things that would be going through my mind are, can I shave off a land? Felt like we got pretty flooded. Can we do anything about just drawing way more lands than we needed? I think we could shave a land here. I didn't even really think about it. Maybe we cut Castle Doom. It felt pretty low impact there. That's exactly what he's thinking through. And then another question is, can we fit any more card selection in? Like, I actually would be playing, I didn't even think about this during deck building, or I didn't think to mention it. I would be playing Colleen Wing in this deck because of the double take up the shield. I think it's probably worth it. I think Training Regimen, for example, is a card that I would still heavily have on the chopping block. Is there an opportunity for a splash? Like, if we could get some black mana sources and put in a Widow's Bite or a Hour of Defeat. Oh, he's going for a dramatic potential change in decks. Taking another look at the Titania after the bad beats that it delivered to us. Okay, so we're considering a Golgari build. I kind of like this. I guess I agree that the white was a little low impact, but I guess I also think the green was a little low impact with Mr. Hyde and Gorilla, for example. But I like the idea of cutting some of those worse green cards, like the Powerful Broker and the Training Regimen. All right, I'm liking the direction of this. I'm really liking this line of thinking. Going Jund, just packing in some more of those high impact cards. Look, Hulk, Gamma, Goliath. I don't think it's a good card exactly, but I keep coming back to this kind of card just because having an overstatted 5-drop in a situation like what happened to us last game would not have been the worst thing in the world when we were just flooding out, right? So the Gamma Goliath, 6/5 for 5 reach trample, and it makes your power up abilities cheaper. You don't even really need the synergy part of this. Just a 6/5 for 5 reach trample in sealed can just win a game. I would definitely be looking at Herbie in this build. Yeah, Rocks and Brutes. He just highlighted Rocks and Brutes. That's the black land cycler. So I would be very happy to have a mana cycler. Yeah, get that Herbie in there. Yes, yes, good thinking. Awesome. I like this deck a lot. I mean, I would have thought in a vacuum, just like Darth Corpulus did, that the green-white deck would be the best. Having said that, now that we saw it play out, get flooded, feel a little bit low impact, not have removal, yeah, maybe just leaning towards black, playing the Widow Bite, playing the Hour of Defeat. I really love the idea of putting in the Madam Hydra. Now he is playing the Abomination Terrifying Titan, playing Herbie. I like this a lot. I'm looking at some of those 1-drops and feeling like maybe they're not enough, like Whiplash, Project Deathlock Soldier. Yeah, I do like Visions of Villainy. Just a clean 2-for-1 in sealed is always good. I like that he's being thoughtful about the mana base. Oh, get that green-black land in there. What's going on? There's a green-black land on the sidelines. Oh, we really want that green-black land in our deck, right? So that would be better than having a generic 1-drop. I would absolutely be putting in Rocks and Brutes, cutting Project Deathlock Soldier or Whiplash specifically, but Project Deathlock Soldier would be first on the chopping block for me here. Get in that Rocks and Brutes and get in the green-black land. But I think he's looking to support the 1-drops. I think he wants the 1-drops, and he's looking to play them on turn 1, which might be why he's not playing the tap land. I also absolutely think we should be on the second Pet Avengers. That would be another place where I would really want to take advantage of the stats of the deck or of the pool. Having said that, I love the way that he's thinking. You know what? This is the way to do it. You take a bad beat, you just step back, assess, and if you think your deck was just systematically not doing a good job, then try something radically different. I think that was a really, really good way of thinking. Huge kudos to Darth Corpulus for the calm pivot here. But we'll see if it's final. Yeah, if he's taking a moment, he's finessed the deck. Is this going to be the one that we're going to run out for game number 2? All right, and I think this is probably the second best deck in the pool. The blue looked bad, so now and the green looked good. So now we've tried pairing white with green, and we've tried pairing green with the 2 other colors. So this is a really nice learning opportunity. Oh, Hellcat looking so awkward here. I would say this is probably a mulligan. I mean, the only thing that we can do is 1 removal spell. Okay. Hey, you know what? Whiplash is looking stronger here than whatever 4-drop I was advocating, or 5-drop. I guess the Land Cycler wouldn't be terrible, which I think is what I was saying we should cut it for. I mean, I'd be more inclined to cut Project Deathlock Soldier before Whiplash. But you know what? A 2/2 for 1 in a deck that kind of Golgari mid-range deck that just wants stats on the board. Oh, I think I have a difference of opinion with Darth Corpulus about Pet Avengers. I would be putting the training regimen back, but okay. All right, that is Scientist Supreme of AIM. Let's pull that one up here. Scientist Supreme of AIM. That is a 2/2 for Dimir mana. Pay 2 life, copy an activated or triggered ability you control from an artifact source. You may choose new targets for the copy, activate only during your turn, and only once each turn. So that is an intensely synergistic card. Gives us a strong signal about where the opponent's head is at. Seems like they might have like a few good artifacts to copy with that. Most of the time when this hits the battlefield, I'm guessing it's not going to do very much, but probably they have a few synergies that they're now digging towards that kind of go off with this card. The opponent is thinking actually very hard about this Red Room Recruit Connive, which makes sense. There's money on the line. It kind of suggests to me that maybe they have either 2 things to do that they could do on turn 4, and they're thinking about which one. Or maybe they have 1 land, like a bunch of good cards in 1 land, and they're thinking about whether they can possibly, or like 2 lands, and they're thinking about whether they can possibly get away with throwing a land away. They've almost used their only timeout. Okay, I think did they actually time out? I think the auto picker might have decided to make them discard that land. Okay. Down comes a Baron Strucker, very nice. I mean, this deck is looking great. We're pretty much just straight up curving out. I'll admit it, I'm actually kind of concerned that the opponent disconnected. I wonder if they got all lands and tilted out and disconnected. That would be a shame. I mean, it's always nice to pick up a win, I guess, but we're rooting for good magic here, obviously. That would be quite a shame. Okay, their timers, did they seriously just flood out and close their client? It's possible. With a box on the line? I have played a lot of these events. I don't think I've ever had this happen. Someone just straight up disconnecting on turn 3. I think the opponent may actually be about to lose. Wow. We just watched Darth Corpulus straight up get a bye in an online event. I mean, I've never seen that happen before. Win by default in a win-a-box. I need him to teach me how to do that. All right, so we are now 1-1. The Junt deck felt awesome. We're going to take a look at it, do a little bit of deck tech, but that deck felt much smoother. I mean, our opponent did completely disappear, so we didn't have much of a battle to test it on, but I mean, the curve out was great. So I would be looking at, is there that green-black land that we could get back in here? That's one question. Another question is, I would want to be putting in the Pet Avengers over Training Regiment. I know I keep harping on that. I would be wondering if that Hellcat draw told us something about the mana base. Maybe Hellcat is just a little bit too green pip intensive for a 3-color deck. But on the whole, I liked it a lot. That felt a lot better. All right, hopefully we get to play some Magic this time. So I quite like the hand. I would be going, well, actually, I didn't even think about this. It's actually awkward, right? Because you can't even play Gorilla on turn 2 because of the tap land. So yeah, I actually agree. I take back what I said. I actually agree with the mulligan here. I would put back, so Hellcat's looking awesome this time. Maybe, yeah, Decoy Ploy, not so good in the opener. Yeah, makes a lot of sense. So, excellent thinking by Darth Corpulus. All right, we have multiple 2-drops, so I'm just slamming down the Hellcat. They don't have We Say Thee Nay mana yet. Now they do have We Say Thee Nay mana, so we need to be thinking about counter spells. We unfortunately cannot play Baron Strucker. That's the awkward thing about our hand. But we have a 2-drop, you know, and if they counter our 2-drop, we're not moaning too much. Okay, oh, Wondrous Wasp. That's a nasty one. But yeah, actually, that's a pretty nasty one. But we do have a 2/2 reach, and then we have a flyer hopefully coming down pretty soon. So I would just be slamming them both here. All right, brief commentary break to let the cat in the room. All right, so I missed. They land cycled a burrow back up. Yeah, it's so sad that that our Hellcat gets nerfed there. Oh, and we drew a Pet Avengers, so does that mean we missed a land drop? That's unfortunate. Okay, but we hit a land drop here. Pet Avengers is actually pretty nice lined up against Mighty Thor. Let's see. So you can go, one plan would be play the Herbie and then try to training regimen it. Let me remind myself of exactly what training regimen does. But basically the idea is like your Herbie can grow to do combat with the Mighty Thor. So training regimen, creatures you control with +1/+1 counters have trample. At the beginning of combat, you put a counter on a creature you control. So basically you would immediately get a counter out of it. They're flickering the Gorilla. So they want to do combat. I would not get into this combat. Yeah, I super respect Darth Corpulus. Overall, Darth Corpulus is showing that he is an extremely disciplined player about blocking. He's really, really, really good about not getting into combats where he's not sure that it's going to work out in his favor. So huge respect to Darth Corpulus for the blocking discipline shown throughout this event. So he might be thinking about just attacking with Pet Avengers since the opponent just showed us that they have a combat trick and now they're tapped down. The opponent also missed even more land drops than we did. I think we missed a land drop when I was letting my cat in. So looks like a moment to attack. All right, we've solved our number of swamps issue. I might look at holding a swamp for Baron Strucker, but I think you just want to play it out here. I think he was right to just play it out here. If we get another swamp, we could double spell. If we get another land, I mean, we could double spell Baron Strucker and Training Regiment. So yeah, it's absolutely correct to just drop the land there. Good work. Okay, now our life total is getting a little low. We do get to double spell. So we can make Herbie a blocker against Mighty Thor. And then maybe I'm looking to just attack with Gorilla, put a counter on Herbie, hold back 2 blockers. Okay, counter goes to Herbie. And the reason this is good is because Mighty Thor does not want to be blinking Herbie. No attacks, interesting. Not even playing Baron Strucker? That would surprise me. Is he thinking, maybe he's thinking about bluffing a block. Bluffing a combat trick, I mean, for the block. Or he's wondering if the opponent has We Say Thee Nay, but I don't think they do at this point. So the other option here would have been to put the counter on Pet Avengers and make it really hard for them to flicker Pet Avengers, because then you get to just keep powering up. I like this line a lot better, though, because I think it's so awkward for them not being able to flicker your Herbie. I don't think that they can attack through. Okay, right now, because of Quake, they do get a tap down. So that's actually pretty annoying. Frozen and Ice. Did I say pretty annoying? I mean, it's highly annoying. So because Frozen and Ice makes Pet Avengers lose all abilities, you cannot power it up. Oh, so awkward to get Visions of Villainy here. One thing I would be looking at, though, is I definitely think this was absolutely right. Just play the Visions of Villainy. One thing I would be looking at is, can we sack the Gorilla to destroy Frozen and Ice and get to untap our Pet Avengers next turn? That's probably worth it, right? Oh, the connive. The connive. We would have gotten to keep that and get a food. That could have been a big deal, right? I believe we played a land into Undercover Scroll. But that's the kind of sequencing issue that that I do all the time. But I would be wondering if it's worth sacking the Gorilla here to unfreeze Pet Avengers. But I actually think I think Darth Corpulus found a better line than I did, where you just let the Gorilla get stacked up before combat to tap down the creature. Well, you can chump, so it's not exact. No, never mind. They get to flicker it. So it is actually a good game. Oh, tough stuff. Darth Corpulus, a valiant Magic player of 20 years, came back to Magic a year ago with Final Fantasy, and just did a incredibly good run for someone who's been playing Draft for about a year since coming back to Magic. Just did a fantastic job. All right, I have Darth Corpulus on the line here. That was a really cool run. I think you did a whole lot of stuff pretty much exactly the same as I would have done. I mean, honestly, I would have started with probably the same deck and then pivoted to a very similar looking deck. How are you feeling about it overall?
I feel like I did what I could. The pool was pretty weak. My rares didn't give me much to work with, I didn't feel like. And yeah, I feel like I did what I could, but I felt pretty doomed from the start.
I completely agree with you. Yeah, the rares were looking pretty weak. I thought probably the best one was maybe like Shield Flying Car if you can get some synergies with it. But then your your blue was so incredibly chunky, like a whole lot of like pretty weak commons and uncommons, and then the curve was terrible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you probably saw I looked at blue pretty hard trying to figure out how to make it work, and yeah, I agree. I couldn't do it.
Exactly. And the blue white was like, this was, I would say, maybe one of the like half or 2/3 of pools where you shouldn't play Azorius.
Yeah.
One thing that I thought you did like really nicely was I admired your use of Take Up the Shield in game 1. There was a moment where you cast it before combat, and I thought you were playing around Helicarrier Strike, because if you cast it after getting into blockers, and then the person could just shoot your hero in training. I'm curious about there were like a lot of moments. I think you're very disciplined about letting damage through. There were a lot of moments where you decided not to block. Do you have a blocking theory or a blocking philosophy? Or were you just trying to stay out of combat because it seemed like your opponent wanted you to get into it?
Yeah, there were certainly several times like where my opponent would attack with open mana and I had the obvious block, and it felt like they were trying to bait me into it, and I didn't want to be baited. And in most cases, I felt like I had time, and none of my decks are fast, so it felt like letting them develop a little more rather than trading off creatures or just losing 1-to-1 battles didn't feel like the right call. But maybe that was a mistake in some cases for sure.
I thought for a moment that it might be in game 1 that you were letting yourself get a bit too low, but then you had a different plan that managed to take off the shield spike hit by like destroying it and then prevent them from having a Winter Soldier be a 5 power creature instead of a 2 power creature. And then I realized I think we all have a lot to learn from your blocking discipline. I think the only difference of opinion really that I had, there were kind of 2 things that I thought. And I'm curious what you think about this. So one is like, I think I would have put in the Pet Avengers instead of Training Regimen, for example. Just like leaning towards a few more of those high impact creatures, maybe cutting some of the 1-drops like the 1/2 for 1. That might have made a difference in the last game where if you'd had Pet Avengers instead of Training Regimen, you would have had one more reach blocker, that kind of thing.
For sure, yeah.
The other thing I was thinking about was maybe not in the final deck that you ended up with, but if there was some build where you could have Vision Quest be fetching Herbie with blue being basically a splash, because you had some like Esper lands maybe. So if you're like green black, well, no, you need to splash both red and blue. But I don't know if there was maybe something there. But overall, super in agreement. So and also the most important thing that I want to learn from you from this event is how to get a buy in an online event. That's the only time I've seen someone do that.
Yeah, just have your opponents sign off in the middle of the game, and you'll win for sure.
Exactly. Awesome. So thank you so much for being game to do this, and I know our audience is absolutely going to have a blast and loved watching this. Do you have any last word for the people?
Don't be afraid to splash.
Excellent. Love it. Thanks so much. A huge round of applause
Absolutely.
for Darth Corpulus here. A huge thank you once again to Darth Corpulus. That was an admirable run with a very difficult pool. I know that I would not have been able to do much better. So let's get a counter on here. Boxes 0, attempts 1. And over the next week, we'll see if our future Splash Champs can lift that box counter up a little bit. Like I said, we have about between 3 and 4, maybe 3 and 5 runs left this week of Splash Champs. If you do want to be considered for a future Splash Champs, or if you want to be put on the backup list for Splash Champs this week, go to the community Discord. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel, join the community Discord, search my name, Unlimited Splash there, add me as a friend, DM me, and let me know that you would like to be in Splash Champs. And like I say, this is a new type of video, so if you enjoyed it, let me know if there are things that you'd like to change. I had to do a whole lot of figuring out the production kind of while recording this time. I think it'll be a bit smoother next time. But if there are things you'd really like me to make sure that I pay attention to as I'm reconfiguring and just figuring out how all of this is going to work, definitely let me know. And also let me know if you like this series, or if you'd like to see more of it, or more of me playing for boxes, a mixture of the two, all of one, all of the other. I'm absolutely all ears. All right, thanks as always for watching, everyone. Until tomorrow, have tons of fun playing Magic, and don't be afraid to splash.